Hey folks, we are green today on a Tuesday. It feels like Monday. It's Tuesday, day after Memorial Day, May 26th. Black Coffee Trader coming to you here with the daily recap. And yeah, just a small little green day, up about $100 or so on the Lucid accounts. Those are the only two accounts I traded on the funded side. Had a decent little day on my evals, nothing crazy. But kind of a wild day. It was actually a difficult day for me, and I made the switch back to the 2 minute chart here late day. And I think I'm going to stick to it. And I've done this in the past where I've kind of vacillated between different time frames, and I always seem to come back to this 2 minute. And I think it's just because I seem to get better entries, and that's where my issue was this morning. I felt like some of the trades I took, like I think the first one was on ES. I took a reclaim long here where I actually placed a buy order as the market came back to this area and it just pushed all the way through. And I wouldn't have taken that trade here on the 2 minute, but on the 5 minute, it looked like that may have been a good play. Ended up with a $200 loss. Also, by the way, I did increase my position size to 200. So I'm trading with a $200 risk instead of 150 like I've been trading for a while, just trying to push these accounts a little bit more aggressively, ultimately to get them to a payout, to be honest. So I then re-entered that trade here, and that really was a good trade. It was hard to see it on the 5 minute, and that's the thing that has bothered me at times, is on the 5 minute, just not quite. It's difficult sometimes to see where the entry should be. And if you wait for the 5 minute candle to close, sometimes you really end up taking an entry a little bit away from where your risk really should be, and you give up more. You have to take more risk in the trade, and it also means you need a bigger profit target to get your risk reward. So I do like this. Now this was taken on the 5 minute, but when I switched this to the 2 minute chart, I found that the entry actually was really good. So I was reading the 5 minute candles okay, but it was a little bit unnerving sometimes to take entries. But anyway, this was a reclaim again. This one really I shouldn't have taken. This was a bad entry, bad idea. So it is what it is. I shouldn't have taken that trade. Ended up with a loss that I shouldn't have had. Jumped into this trade, got out there with a couple $100 in profit. I didn't like these wicks at the top, and when we started to get this rollover, I killed the trade. Felt a little bit stupid when we pushed higher, but then we did end up falling off, and I was happy with my idea. I took a short on the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones really just sold off today, unlike the rest of the markets, but Dow Jones sold. I was really looking for this entry, didn't get it. I finally took a break and retest short here below PDL. Now this I'm calling prior day low. This is actually the Friday low. Yesterday being a holiday, I don't put much stock into the holiday trading hours. So I really didn't pay much attention to yesterday's highs and lows. I'm really going off of Friday's highs and lows, and then I will go off today's highs and lows going into tomorrow's trading session. By the way, tomorrow I'm probably not going to trade. I have a very, very, very busy day. My schedule is pretty hectic. I may not even trade tomorrow. So if there's no recap tomorrow, it's because I basically didn't trade. But anyway, I will take those levels into tomorrow's maybe session and then Thursday as well. So, but anyway, took a break and retest. And this again, I took it on the 5 minute chart. I moved my stop down to where you see this stop out right there. And as you can see, I got stopped out. So I tightened up my stop, which was really stupid. If I looked at it on the 2 minute chart, really the stop should have stayed there. These wicks were pretty apparent on the 2 minute, and they were not quite as apparent on the 5 minute. And it caused me to make a bad entry, a bad decision on the stop placement. Got stopped out on that trade. I re-entered again, kind of a chase trade down here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's an entry right there. I didn't like the trade, didn't like the way the market was acting, killed it for break even, and then I got back in again. So there was 3 entries here on this break and retest below what I call PDL today. And this one here ended up with a couple $100 trade, got out there with a little bit of profit, but the market really wasn't going lower on the Dow Jones. We finished the day on the NASDAQ on a reclaim trade, and after this the Dow couldn't continue lower and the NASDAQ started to bounce back above VWAP. I really started looking at, hey, what about this reclaim of this level around the 30,000s? Let's just take a little bit of a detour into the bigger time frame. This is the highs of days from yesterday and the overnight Sunday night open of the market. So that is that level that I charted, basically saying, hey, these are recent highs. Let's at least have them on our charts. And when we reclaimed VWAP, I started looking for this reclaim long. Now I took this reclaim long, this first entry that you see right here, I took that entry on the 5-minute chart. And probably got faked out a little bit. Notice how cleanly we held this 30,000 level right here. And then on this is obviously the 2-minute chart, but on the 2-minute chart, I likely would have waited, and I may have avoided this little pullback, because what really happened here is we had this little pullback in this wick to the lower area, which really is, let's go back to this bigger picture time frame. That is the lowest highs in that Sunday night open. The lowest typically wick highs of that Sunday night open, and the yesterday, that middle of the day highs. That's where that lower end of that range is from. But we wick tested that, and at that point, I was in the process when I got stopped out. I said, you know what, I just don't like, I'm not comfortable with this 5-minute chart. I feel like I'm not seeing it correctly. So I went back to the 2, changed the EMAs back to the 921. And then we had this push higher, and I said I have to get long, got long, and obviously that ended up being a really nice trade. I was out for like $275, and that brought these accounts back to green. So on the Lucid accounts today, we were green, red, and then back to green, and that's where we finished the day. So kind of a wild day, but I feel a little bit more comfortable. And I want to point out something. If you're wondering, you know, man, the 2-minute chart, you know, why are you getting sucked into this small time frame? I'm really doing this only for entries. What you're not seeing is over on the monitor on the right, and I was trying to figure out how to show this on OBS, and for some reason I couldn't get this monitor to load properly so I can show it. But I am looking at, I've got a monitor over here where I have, if I can draw here, it looks like this, where I've got 6 charts open. So I have NQ, I have ES, I have the Russell. I'll just do single letters here. I have the Dow Jones, I have gold, and I have oil. I know oil, O is not the letter, but you get the picture. So I am actually looking at all 6 of these on a 15-minute chart on a separate monitor. And this monitor that you see in this video is only where I take my entries. So I'm studying the market and looking for where I want to get in on a bigger picture time frame, and then getting into the market on the smaller time frames. And I've been, you know, traded the 15-minute. I actually took entries on the 15, kind of liked it, had a little bit of success, but I felt like, man, I'm really just kind of, it felt like my entries were too loose, if that's a good term. And then I switched to the 5-minute about a week ago, and I liked it. But again, I had times where, like today, I just felt like I was missing something. And so end of day jumping into this 2-minute, definitely, it just feels better. And crazy as it is, you know, I don't know if you guys can identify to this, but we kind of have this baseline, or this home, or this happy place, if you will, with our trading. And then all at once, you know, we see this shiny object over here. And then we start to deviate from this, and we end up, it works for a little bit, and then it doesn't work, and we kind of come back to the middle. And then, you know, sometimes we try something down here, we kind of come back to the middle. And I think understanding what's this middle, what's this way that works for us to trade. And, you know, for me, it's looking at the 15-minute on a bigger picture time frame, 60-minute, having my game plan, and then taking the entries on that lower time frame chart. So I may jump back and forth between 5-minute and 2-minute on those entries, but for right now, it just feels right to take these on the 2-minute. So the one thing I did learn deviating from this, and I think prior to my little you know, journey into the bigger time frames for my entries, is before I made that detour to the bigger time frames for entries, I was sometimes taking these way too aggressively here on the 2-minute chart. And what I need to do, what this has taught me, is have a little bit of time, allow some time to surpass before taking an entry, and really get clear with, okay, this is what's happening. Big picture, we're getting a hold. Now we're getting buyers pushing. Okay, we have some legitimacy here. Now we're going to take this trade. And I think that's what I've learned in this process. So hopefully that helps me going forward. One other thing, and this was kind of a painful little lesson here on this trade. So as I got out of most of the position right up here around these highs, we then had this rollover, and I moved my stop to break even, manually, mind you, but I did move it back to break even. And notice what happened. So we basically had a reclaim. This is really a reclaim. It's not necessarily a break and retest. It's more of a reclaim long. And I've really started to love this trade, especially in these bullish markets where we get these pullbacks and then we look to reclaim a level for further upside. That's just really turned out to be a really nice trade. But as you can see, I took this entry and I moved that stop to break even, but what I should have done is left this stop at these highs right here, this inflection point. If I would have left the stop there or even here, either way, we would have survived that and we would have went all the way up here to where my final target was, which was right here at these highs. This was where I had, oops, let me adjust these drawings. This was where I had my initial final target and we would have got it. So, if a trade is not invalidated, I just need to work on this. It's tough to see a trade come back, and stop yourself out. And it's even harder for me to let a trade go back into the red. But as long as it's holding a level, I need to be okay with that and let the trade work, because this really would have worked. Yes, this was a nice trade. Sure, up nearly $300. Great trade. I'm happy with it. But it could have been more had I just trusted the hold of this area. So anyway, just something I want to work on, and I'm just sharing it with you. On TradeZella, let's take a look at today. We're up a couple $100, 43% win rate, which has kind of been about my norm. 1.58 on the average win to loss. Average winner today was 253 or 233. The average loser was 148. So we're going to see this increase a little bit because I am trading with a $200 risk instead of 150, like I mentioned. So, but also the rest of how I trade has stayed the same. So I'm still looking for that 2R for the first contract or half the position sell off, and so I should be able to keep this, and the goal is just going to be to have bigger wins. It also does mean we have bigger losses, but it means if I have a loss or two, I got to stop. I just have to walk away. So we'll see what the rest of the week holds. Again, I think tomorrow's probably going to be a scratch day. It just depends on how the day goes, but I will be able to trade Thursday and Friday, and hopefully we can put some green back on the charts. I don't know if we can recoup $6,000 that we need to get the month back to green, but hey, we're not too worried about that. We're going to focus on the process and not get too carried away with the little, the monthly numbers. What I want to do is just continue to put together good trades, keep the headspace right, and move these accounts along. So that's a wrap for today. Don't forget the Apex sale does end tonight. That 90% off sale ends at midnight tonight. I think the Lucid sale of 50% off that is still running. So again, thanks for following me along, and thanks for using my code. Also, Affordable Indicators is running a 40% discount, I believe. Whoops, I kind of messed that up, but they're running a 40% discount. So check them out. That's the chart dashboard, accounts dashboard that I use. It's the chart trader that I use over here to place my trades. So I do like Affordable Indicators a lot. That's also where I get this cloud. It's called the moving averages trend. Is what that is in Affordable Indicators, and so you can basically set that to create this cloud, if you will, this green or red cloud based on trends. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thanks for following along. It's a green, feels like a Monday, but it's a green day, and hey, we'll be back at it probably on Thursday. So again, thanks for following along. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night, and we'll catch up with you on the next one. Take care, and so long.